We have switched aisles. Now we are in Scotland. And while I was coming here, I was listening to a podcast by Rick Steves. They were talking about haunted tours because it's supposed to be the most haunted place in the UK because so many people died from the bubonic plague underground because it was the biggest medieval city, so they just casted all these peasants underground. But unfortunately, all of the haunted tours left at 5 that Rick Steves recommended. So instead I just came alone to the cemetery. Maybe equally as foreboding, I don't know, but we're right by the castle. There's the Castle of Scotland. Alright. Kristen's own haunted tour. Not in the cemetery anymore. But still kind of creepy with the castle lit up for Christmas, I guess. Or something. People think I'm talking to myself and being weird. That's okay. Here's the same view as yesterday, just in the daytime. Pretty cool. Very green.
And in this square, there used to be a marketplace, selling mainly fruit and vegetables and alike. Now, the Mercat Cross was used for two things historically. It was used for punishments and proclamations. Now, let's go on to punishments first, because that's the most interesting thing. In order for me to explain punishments here on the Mercat Cross, I'm going to need a volunteer. Who is keen to be a volunteer? You, sir. You have been singled out by your lovely female friend. Okay, what is your name? Mike. Now, Mike here. Mike is a horrible, filthy, dirty thief, aren't you, Mike? Yes, you are. Now, Mike has no money, and Mike has come here to the marketplace, and he has stolen an onion. Why did you need that onion, Mike?
I don't know.
You don't know. You love them. You love those onions. Anyway, Mike stole an onion, and Mike got caught. Now, here in Edinburgh, we do not like thieves, and we punish them very, very harshly. Mike is caught and he is brought here to the Mercat Cross. He steps up to this step. Now, what is Mike's punishment? What we do is we get a very large needle. A very large needle with a big, sharp, rusty end. And we take this needle, can I have an ear, please? Yes. We take this needle and we take his ear and we slam his ear into the door of the Mercat Cross. There we go. Now, he is stuck in the door of the Mercat Cross. Now, why is this? Because he needs to be punished for stealing. So, at the end of the day, everyone in the marketplace gets all the rotten vegetables and they throw their rotten vegetables at Mike. Throw your rotten vegetables at Mike. Yes. Now, Mike is covered in rotten vegetables. He is not very happy about this, but it gets worse. At the end of the night...
He got free onions.
He got free onions, this is true. At the end of the night, everyone has got their daily business. What is their daily business? Well, in 15 and 1600s here in Edinburgh, there was no sewer system. No, there was not. So how did people go to the bathroom? There was a small basin underneath your bed, and you would do your daily business in this basin. And at the end of the day, you would throw that basin out into the street. Or, if there was someone stuck onto the Mercat Cross, you would go and you would throw your daily business over the person. So, Mike is now covered in poo. Very nice. Now, Mike, are you a coward? No, you're not a coward, so you want to have a punishment. Well, let's say Mike was a coward, and Mike did not want to be covered in poo. What Mike could do is he could set himself free. How do you do that? You rip your ear from the needle, rip, and you run away. Big round of applause for Mike in Edinburgh. It is called St Giles Cathedral. Now, the oldest part of this church dates back to 1120, and it is the side chapel just off this side of the church. The side chapel is used nowadays as a place for knighting people. If someone is ever to be knighted here in Scotland, the Queen will come up to St Giles Cathedral and she will knight them in the side chapel of the cathedral. Most famous person ever to be knighted within St Giles Cathedral, in my opinion, is the greatest James Bond of all time, Sir Sean Connery. Yes, he was knighted in St Giles Cathedral. Now, St Giles Cathedral is a bit deceiving because it is called a cathedral. However, here in the UK, UK. In order for a church to be a cathedral, it has got to have a bishop. Now, even today in the UK, Scotland and England are divided on religion. England have the Church of England, Scotland have the Church of Scotland. Once upon a time though, someone tried to put these two things together and it did not go down very well. As I said, James VI of Scotland, James I of England, same people, he wrote down the Scottish Writers' Museum. During the 1800s, 18th century, here in Edinburgh, Edinburgh went through what you would call an Enlightenment period. This is when in Edinburgh there was lots of different thinkers, lots of people with new ideas, lots of writers, lots of philosophers. We had one of the best medical schools in the world. We still do have one of the best universities in the world here in Edinburgh, and Edinburgh was a really happening city at this time. This museum specifically puts memory to the writers here in Edinburgh. Now I think you guys will be surprised at how much you actually know about Scottish writers. We're going to play a little game. I am going to name the author and you are going to name the book. You're going to be better at it than you think, I promise. Okay, we have Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes, exactly right. Robert Louis Stevenson.
Treasure Island.
Treasure Island, yes. J.M. Barrie. Peter Pan. More modernly, we have Irvine Welsh, 21st century writer. You'll all know it when I say it. Irvine Welsh, he wrote Trainspotting. There's none of you have seen the film Trainspotting. Book first. And of course, the most recent and probably the most famous author here in Edinburgh was J.K. Rowling. She is of course English, but it's when she moved up to Edinburgh that she started writing all of her books. Harry Potter. However, the most famous author here in Scotland, the one that we love the most, who used to live in this building, is a man called Robert Burns. Now, who here has heard of Robert Burns? Not very many of you, that's not uncommon. However, I'm pretty confident that a lot of you will have heard some of Burns' poems. He was a famous poet. His most famous poem of all was one called Auld Lang Syne. Now, if any of you guys were here for New Year, you'll definitely heard people sing it. People do this, and they sing, and they jump up and down, and they sing, "For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne." Sang across the world on New Year's Eve, written by Robert Burns. Now, Robert Burns writes in Old Scots, one of the original languages here in Scotland, which means if any of you guys were to read a Robert Burns poem, you might not think it makes sense. So, there we have Edinburgh Castle. There's two good views of Edinburgh Castle. One, we're going to see the greatest view of Edinburgh Castle at the end of the tour when we enter onto this. Now, the first evidence of there being a fort up in Edinburgh Castle goes all the way back 2,000 years ago, and an Iron Age fort was found there. Why is this area used so well? It's perfect for defence. If you have an army and you want to attack Edinburgh Castle, there's only one way to attack it. You've got to come up the Royal Mile. So historically, Edinburgh Castle was one of the easiest to defend in Scotland because there was three sheer sides surrounding the castle. Edinburgh Castle was only captured historically once, and this is by Edward Longshanks when he came up here to Scotland and he claimed himself to be the English king and he took Scotland for himself. So, as I said, William Wallace portrayed and taken down to England, and Robert the Bruce was left. Robert the Bruce was left to fight back and win.
I don't know if you can hear what she said, but apparently J.K. Rowling based this outline on Hogwarts.
To Edinburgh after she separated from her first husband, and when she moved here to Edinburgh she had very little money. The reason she decided to write her books in the Elephant House Cafe is because it was cheaper for her to order a cup of coffee and sit in the Elephant House Cafe all day than it was for her to heat her own flat. So the people at the Elephant House Cafe were very warm to J.K. Rowling. They let her sit and drink lunch with coffee all day, and she sat at the window table and she wrote the first two Harry Potter novels in the Elephant House Cafe. That is why it is the most famous cafe in the city now, because everyone loves a little bit of Harry Potter. If you go out the front of the cafe, it says Harry Potter was written here. I was out in Glasgow the other week and I was at a cafe and I walked past another cafe and it said Harry Potter. Did nothing here, but we could really use the business. Economic crisis and all. But no, this cafe is packed all day, every day for those people who like that boy with fruits. And also to steal the fresh dead bodies so as they could sell them. Here in Edinburgh it's really cold, so a body could stay fresh for about a month in this graveyard. If you were really rich, what you would do is you would buy one of these. This is called a mort safe. It goes more than 12 feet into the ground, surrounding your coffin, so no one is going to dig up your coffin and steal your body. Now, if you had not that much money, if you could not afford the mort safe, what you had to hope is you had to hope that one of your relatives loved you enough to guard your grave. Basically what someone had to do is they had to sit by your graveside for 12 hours every night and make sure nobody came to dug up your body. Now this would not be a very pleasant job because grave diggers tend to be quite aggressive criminals, so you don't want to run into any grave diggers. Also, you'd have to be in the graveyard for the whole night, which if like me you were scared of things like graveyards at night, wouldn't be a very pleasant ordeal. Also, you'd be very, very tired. You'd have to stay awake all night. And this is where the expression, the English expression, the graveyard shift comes from. If any of you guys have heard the expression, the graveyard shift, that comes from people guarding over people's graves all night. It's often what a nighttime shift is called if you're at work. That window, and what could she see from that window? She could look out and she could see this building behind me here. This is George Heriot's school. It was built by a man called the Jingling Geordie. He was nicknamed the Jingling Geordie because he was a very, very wealthy man, but he gave a lot of his money to charity. When he was riding through the town in his carriage, he would throw coins out at the orphan children. He would give a lot of his money away. Before he died, he decided to open a school for orphan children so they could be educated and have a chance at life. This is the school that Jingling Geordie built for the orphan children here in Edinburgh. Nowadays, George Heriot's is not a school for orphans, no. It is a private school. It costs about £3,000 a year to go to this school, so George Heriot's wishes did not come true. However, every year they reserve 5 spots for orphan children so they can attend the school. But there is about 500 people there, so not that many in proportion. So as I said, J.K. Rowling could see this from the Elephant House Cafe window, and it is said to be the original inspiration for Hogwarts. As you can see, it has 4 tall towers, just like Hogwarts does. It has 4 different houses in this school, and that is said to be what she based Hogwarts off of. There is lots of Harry Potter things here in Edinburgh. Another thing J.K. Rowling used to do during her time in between writing books was she used to stroll through this graveyard. And if you stroll through this graveyard, you will find a lot of familiar names on some of the graves. For example, this one in the corner here, you can see a man named William McGonagall. Yes, such as Professor McGonagall. William McGonagall is notoriously known to be the world's worst poet. Do not look up William McGonagall. Do not look up William McGonagall. He has the worst poems in the entire world. Over there we have a grave for Margaret Moody, as in Alistair Moody. There's also 2 graves standing next to each other, one of Hermione somebody next to somebody Granger. And down there to your left, you will find the grave of none other than Tom Riddle. Yes, Voldemort is buried in this graveyard. If any Harry Potter fans are here, I will permit a 2-minute mad dash down to take a photograph of Tom Riddle. It's this.
Yeah. Supposed to be one of the most haunted tombs in the world.
Like, one of the biggest parts in Edinburgh is not the water.
You can see the castle back there. So we're right by the Edinburgh Castle. Just got done with a 3-hour tour of Edinburgh and come to see the castle. I have about 2.5 hours before I need to catch my flight, so we'll see. My goal is to see the castle, to get a coffee where J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, of course. And there's a museum here where Dolly, the first cloned sheep, is, so hopefully we'll get to do all three in 2.5 hours. Make the bus. Countdown begins. It's like Disney's Edinburgh. I'm in the coffee shop right now where J.K. Rowling wrote books 1 and 2 of Harry Potter. I have no adjectives to describe how cool that is. And it's delicious. I got a panini, mozzarella, pesto, and olives in it. Vegetarian friendly, Alexis.
Sensors on it must be used.
It's Dolly the clone sheep.